Welcome back to the Search Bar, the podcast for law firm leaders who want smarter growth without the guesswork, wine optional, but insights guaranteed. On each episode, we cut through the noise to show you what actually works, sharper marketing, stronger systems, and strategies designed to grow with you. I'm Eric Ritter, founder of Digital Neighbor and your SEO sommelier. For more than 12 years, I've helped law firms scale from the inside out, turning online visibility into bigger cases and better clients. If you're running a law firm or want more of the right leads, larger retainers, and more cases closed, you're in the right place. And if you want to put those ideas into motion, check out my Motion for Marketing system. It starts with a free discovery session, no fluff, just a clear path forward. You'll find a link in the show notes. Now to today's episode. I'm really excited because we're exploring something that doesn't get talked about enough in the legal industry, the paradox of success. Many accomplished lawyers hit all the traditional markers, partnership, high earnings, prestigious cases, only to feel trapped by the very achievements they worked so hard for. The golden handcuffs are real, and they create a unique pressure most outside the profession can understand. Joining me today to chat about that is Gary Miles, a trial attorney and managing partner with over 40 years of experience, who successfully led Huseman, Jones, and Miles for more than 3 decades. Gary is also the creator of the Free Lawyer Methodology, host of a highly rated podcast, and author of Breaking Free. With his background in both legislation and coaching, Gary helps attorneys unlock authentic confidence, overcome perfectionism, and find sustainable ways to thrive without sacrificing themselves in the process. Gary, welcome to the Search Bar. I couldn't be happier to welcome you today.
Eric, thank you so much. It's a real honor and privilege to be here with you.
So we usually do a beverage recommendation to get things started. I know you got something a little bit more unique to share with the audience today, Gary.
Well, I'm not a wine drinker, and so I'm not able to supply a great wine recommendation. I've been in recovery for quite a while now, so I stay away from that. I had more than my fill. And I used to just drink too much diet soda and too much coffee. And my wife, Brenda, said, you got to drink Ritter. And Ritter didn't have much flavor. So now I drink a product made by Arbonne called a Fizzy Stick. It's fruit flavored, fizzy, and has a lot of vitamins and minerals. And with that, I'm able to get 100 ounces or so of Ritter in a day, which is what one should have, I think, because I was probably dehydrated before. So I try to stay more hydrated now.
Couldn't love that more, Gary. I think staying hydrated is so important. Sometimes I get that afternoon slump and I feel like I'm kind of in a lull. And then I just realized I just didn't have enough to drink today. Right. And I'll do some kind of electrolyte or something there. And that just kind of gets me going. Yeah. So I absolutely agree, right? My recipe for successful life is enough sleep and plenty of water.
Sleep is really important. I don't think people recognize how important it is to have a routine, get off our phones an hour or so before we are ready to relax. And I coach all my clients to have kind of positive thoughts before they go to bed. So often lawyers, and maybe in your field too, Eric, you might tend to go to sleep worrying about this or that related to your work.
Yeah,
and so I have my clients do a kind of wins journal for the day. What things worked out well today? Who was nice to you? Who helped you? Who got you over the hump? What good results did you get from something? And when they focus on that instead of what are the problems, they tend to sleep better.
I love that. Couldn't agree more. Kind of like laying in bed and letting those negative thoughts take over is definitely a recipe for some bad sleep.
It is indeed.
So I already love that you kind of got into it there, kind of your coaching approach a little bit there, and looking forward to diving into that deeper here. Where I want to start kind of maybe is with this, the shift, you talk about from seeking validation to building internal authority. As I was looking through, the different things that you put out there, and if you could just talk a little bit about that. Why do so many attorneys rely on this outside that external validation, whether it's from judges, opposing counsel, or even their own clients?
Well, I think a lot of us in life look at that, don't we? We're very concerned about what others think of us, whether it's a Google rating, happy client. It just doesn't affect lawyers, but affects lawyers more because it starts in law school. In law school, where you get to work after law school is determined by your grades. If you're in the top 10%, you can write your ticket. If you're the bottom 10%, you don't have as many options. So it starts in law school, this drive to get a higher grade on that exam to make law review. And everything is yes or no. You make law review or you don't. You get that good grade or you don't. And everything is judged by those outside circumstances. You try to get your job and they're looking to see, what did you accomplish in law school? What was your class rank? Were you order of the coif? Were you on the law review? And so it starts there, but then we get into practice and we might be in a larger firm or competing with other associates hoping to make partner. How many hours did you bill? How many new clients did you bring in? It just starts that way. And it actually, you think it would get better as we get more successful, but it seems to just get worse because then we have that track record to live up to. I won a bunch of cases in a row, and that made me feel more pressure actually going into the next case. What will people think of me if I lose, because they always expect me to win? And we just start focusing on that. That becomes our habit, our training, and that becomes how lawyers rate other lawyers. Or how big is their book of business? Are they a partner? What's their office? What kind of car do they drive? And it just creates so much stress and anxiety because nothing ever fills that hole. When we get to that next level, we're thinking, well, maybe we need the next level. If I won 5 cases in a row, maybe I need to win 8. It just keeps building, and as our reputation for success grows, the pressure grows more. And the cost of that mindset is incredible. So much stress, so much anxiety. Lawyers who are very, very successful might resort to using substances they wouldn't normally choose to use, or suicidal tendencies in our profession are outrageously high, like disproportionately high. And it's just a very stressful way to live.
I can see that absolutely. And, that's in a lot of industries that happens. Myself in marketing, right? I want to be successful. But in the legal field, I feel like it's proportionally much larger there because the stakes a lot of times are higher, right? At the end of the day, I tell my team sometimes, guys, we're doing marketing here, right? It's not life and death, or it's not we're doing heart surgery here or brain surgery. But in the legal field, a lot of times there's real consequence and real outcomes. So I can see how that can easily become very stressful for an individual.
It can, and the trouble is, I was a trial lawyer, and I learned through some disappointing experiences that I can't control the outcome. Things happen that might be beyond my control. We pick a jury because they know nothing. They know nothing about the accident. They don't know the parties. They don't know medicine. They don't know law. And we pick them because they're a blank slate, an uninformed slate. Yeah. And here we are as lawyers trying to predict what this jury will do when we're full of all this knowledge and experience and they have none of that. So strange things happen in a courtroom. Strange things happen in law practice. And I've learned because I've won some cases I didn't expect to win, and I've lost, at least 2 where I didn't expect to lose. And they were heartbreaking. But what I learned from that is I'm not responsible for that. I'm not responsible for the outcome. I have no power over the outcome. Things happen. Judge makes a bad ruling. Witness doesn't testify the way we expected him to. Evidence comes in that we didn't expect to come in. Those things happen. So what I've learned is that's not the right way to judge myself by my win and loss record. Instead, I look at a couple things. Did I work hard and prepare the case well and present it well? Did I do what I had power over? I have power over my thoughts, feelings, and actions. Did I do a good job in preparing the case and presenting it? Did I act ethically and responsibly and professionally to the parties, to the other attorney, to the court? And did I come from a focus of trying to serve my client and getting him or her the best result that we could? If I've done all those things, well, then the result doesn't matter. And the pressure really becomes off because the trial is not about me. It's not about whether I'm a failure or not. It's just me presenting the case and doing the best job that I can. And the only thing at issue in the case then are the legal issues, but my worth is no longer at stake because I judge that separately. I judge it by my effort.
I like that kind of, shifting that focus more inward, right, versus focusing on the external factors, I think is so important.
It is. It really is.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about perfectionism and responsiveness. That a lot of times, those are from the outside, those are traits that make very successful attorneys, right? They're a perfectionist, they're responsive. But I read that you actually call those traits prisons. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, well, perfectionism is a huge prison, and it's something I struggled with for much of my career. It began when I was a kid. I was very heavy as a kid. You could say I was fat as a kid. I wore these nerdy glasses. I was not an athlete. I played golf. I learned to play golf, and golf's a good sport, but it's not at the time. Now it's much more highly recognized. At the time, it was what kids who couldn't play other sports would play. And I was very, very, very smart. And so in school, I was picked on and bullied. They don't like the smart kid because when they got a 68 and I got a 98, it made them look bad. I wasn't cool. And I was picked on a lot, and I wanted to succeed. I wanted to be liked. And so I chose to do that through success. I did very, very well in high school, college, and law school. And that became my goal, to be as successful and indeed perfect as I could. And then it carries on into law school. I actually graduated #1 in my law school class. I really put forth a lot of effort, and it paid off, and it continued when I started practicing law. But what happens is that perfectionistic tendency just grows and grows and grows. And it gets to a point where it's paralyzing. We can't ever release that pleading into the world, because what if we made a mistake? What if I said something wrong? I proofread it and I proofread it and I don't see anything. Maybe I change a comma, and I just overwork it to death. And then, of course, I can't bill all that time, one, because I know it wasn't very productive. Or we go into trial and so many unexpected things happen there, and it challenges my need to be perfect. And what ends up happening is it's just anxiety creating, it's stressful, and it leads to procrastination. It leads to feeling we're never ever good enough, because we're never quite as perfect, even if the pleading is perfect. And so it goes from providing great service and excellent work to something where we're just filled with self-doubt, anxiety, because we think we're not good enough. And it really is. And responsiveness is another one. What happens is we train our clients to own us 24/7. And what I mean by that is, if a client calls me at 8:30 and I immediately pick up the phone and answer his question, then he calls me the next day at 9:15, I answer the phone, he knows whenever he calls, I will answer the phone.
Right.
And if he sends me an email and I respond immediately, I train him to expect that anytime he emails me, I'm going to respond immediately. So what happens? We're like hamsters on a wheel. You call and I answer right away. The other client calls, I answer right away. I can't get any work done. Every time I start working on my project, I get interrupted by a call or an email that I feel like I'm being responsive. But really what I'm doing is shortchanging all of my clients, because I'm not giving any of them the due attention that they deserve. So I believe in having communication windows. I train my clients. Most of them find they're sharpest in the morning rather than at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So from 8:30 to 10, that's their time. They don't get interrupted by their staff. They train their partners and colleagues not to interrupt them. And they let their clients know in advance. I don't take calls before 10. If you call me in that window, I promise you I'll call you back. But I won't call right then. And then clients know that if they send an email or they call during those times, they'll be returned later. And what happens is that lawyer then has an hour and a half of concentrated effort where he can work on that project that we've been putting off, we've never quite gotten to, and we can get it done. And so many lawyers feel like they work so hard during the day, they know they worked hard, they're going from one thing to another, at the end of the day they feel like they got nothing done. And they don't know why there aren't more hours on their timesheet. So this system of handling all of our communications in windows of the day from 10:30 to 11:30, return all the calls, answer all the emails, and then you have another block where you do work. And it's so much more efficient to answer all the emails at once instead of interrupting what we're doing every moment. So much more efficient to return all the calls at once. And the clients know you will respond, and they also know that when you're working on their work, you won't be interrupted by other clients. So responsiveness is good in itself until it takes control of our day. You would not expect when you call a doctor that he's going to answer the phone whenever you call. But if you leave a message, if he's a good doctor, he'll call you back and answer your question at some point during the day. So I really believe responsiveness is good if we don't let it take control of our day and our calendar.
I love that, Gary. I think that's so important to kind of carve out that focus time, or that time when you can actually be uninterrupted. I find that myself, right? Blocking off my mornings, kind of my focus time. And I think also what you said, really important, communicating that to people and letting them know that, like, I'm not available this time. So they also know, so maybe they call you, get your voice message. Oh yeah, that's right. Gary told me he's not available to after 10. He'll call me back, right? So that way they also have that understanding because it's been communicated to them as well. And it sounds like that's one way to almost turn that responsiveness around, right? And kind of making that a strength because others know how you're going to respond to them. You've set those expectations.
And they know that when you're working on their file, that you won't be interrupted and you'll be producing good product. And I tell them, this saves me time and that saves you money because I'll get your work done more quickly. When I talk to you, you'll have my full attention. I won't be distracted by other matters. Sometimes I'd be working on a motion and you'd give me a call and I'd answer your phone. I'd be slightly annoyed because I wanted to work on that. I have no reason to be annoyed. You're calling because you have a question, but I feel that way because I'm trying to get something done. Yeah. And then I'm sort of half with you because I'm thinking about I want to get back to doing what I was doing. And this way clients know that you're always attentive. And when you're working on their work, you're very productive and very efficient. And I find lawyers enjoy that so much more. And it's easy to transition from perfectionism too. And I believe in focusing on what I call optimal excellence. Sometimes A- work is just fine. Doing 95% work is just fine. Knowing that maybe sometime there might be a little mistake, but it's not a mistake of consequence. So some things are very simple that we do as lawyers. Motion to compel because someone hasn't filed discovery. That's pretty routine. Mistakes in that don't matter. The court always enters an order that they have to answer in 15 days. Something more important, I think the most number of readings we have to give it is 3. Second time through, we make a lot of changes. Third time through, we're looking just to clean it up. And then it's good to go. But the 8th reading never, ever accomplishes anything. So I focus on excellence. And no one complains about their lawyer being only excellent. No one has that complaint. So if we do excellent work, 95% are perfect, that's great service, I think.
I love that. That's such great advice, right? You don't want to continuously get stuck on one thing without being able to move forward to something else. But one of the things that kept coming to the top of my mind, you're talking, Gary, is you've been doing this for a long time, I think over 4 decades, right? You've been in the trenches and doing this. So you really understand sustainability, right? We talked about the stress earlier. And, if you didn't know how to manage all of that, you wouldn't be here 4 decades later there. So I wanted to understand that a little bit more. And so we can share that with the audience here. In your opinion, let's focus in on that sustainability. What does that look like if, for let's say, an elite attorney in their peak performance, what does sustainability look like for them?
It means doing excellent work, but also preserving the energy that you have, maintaining your quality of life, and maintaining your relationships. And a lot of people think, well, that's not possible. I just work so hard. But if you think of an elite athlete, I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan. Derrick Henry is older for a football player, incredible shape. He has a nutrition guru, an exercise guru. He really manages his body because that's what he needs to perform as a professional football player. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we don't manage our minds. We talked earlier about hydration and sleep. Lawyers sleep poorly. They eat and drink poorly. And they work so hard without taking a break. Go in the office, they work from 8 in the morning till 7 p.m. and they've never taken a break. No professional athlete could do that. The offense comes off the field, the defense goes in. The offense, they sit down, they drink water, they take care of themselves. But we go so hard. And so I encourage some changes in our work practices, like we talked about, with striving for excellence instead of perfection, setting some boundaries during our day, being purposeful about how we use our time. I encourage my clients to, when they leave the office at night, to plan out what they're going to do the next day and exactly when they're going to do it. And I'd like them, in that first window of time, to pick out the one thing they've been putting off for so long that's hanging over their head. We all have those projects, those clients. Get that done first, or at least put an hour and a half into it. Maybe it requires 8 hours. Put an hour and a half into it. And then you'll feel victory. You'll feel like I've done something well. And then plan out the rest of your day. And take breaks. After you work on something intensely for an hour and a half, take 5 minutes. I encourage not looking at the computer to give our mind a break. Take a walk outside. Get some fresh air. Talk to a friend. Walk down to the break room and see who's there. Engage them in conversation just for 5 minutes. Yeah. Then get back and get your focus back. Find time for your hobby. Find time for your family. And I think one of the most important things is being present. And by that I mean, I don't know about you, Eric, but I know when I was practicing law, I'd be so often worried about the future. What's going to happen with this case? I filed my answer to the motion. What's the judge going to do? What's it mean when he rules against me? Or I'd be thinking about the past. Did I do something wrong in that pleading? Did I handle something wrong in that case? And we can be very distracted, particularly overthinking the future. We have to plan for the future. We have to come up with a strategy. You have to come up with a strategy for your clients. But we don't want to overthink it. We don't want to get so stuck in the future that when it's time to do work, our mind is still there. So I really encourage my clients to focus on being truly present. When they're working, focus on one file and one file only. When they're with their family, focus on their family. And if they need to check email at night, I encourage them not to, but if they need to, set a time when you do that. And then go into your office, look at the email from 8:30 to 9, and then you're separate from your family, but you're focused on work, and then get back to being present with your family. So those are some of the essentials that I think. The other thing I'd mention is we struggle when we're so busy to be self-aware. We often don't know that we're stressed or why we're stressed. So I encourage my clients to take a couple breaks during a day and just check in with themselves. Am I organized today? Am I purposeful in how I'm using my time? Am I working today to be as excellent, as great service to my clients as I can? Am I practicing out of fear and worry, or am I practicing out of a place of service and competence? And if we find our mind has gone somewhere else, try to bring it back to where we want it to be. And I think that can really help as well.
I love that. And those are just such great actionable tips, right, for daily, weekly practices of things that lawyers, attorneys, or even anybody in any industry or any line of work can really improve their work-life balance and just improve their sustainability. I just wanted to circle around your methodology, that free lawyer, that really helps attorneys find balance without sacrificing results. And I think that's really what you were talking about there. But I wanted to come back because we talked about those golden handcuffs, right? And just making sure that we hit on everything there, or if there's any other items in the free lawyer methodology that attorneys need to be aware of to help them shed these golden handcuffs and break out of that cycle.
Yeah, I think the main things are judging yourself by how you treat your clients. If you approach them with really a sense of service, listen to them empathetically, work with other lawyers professionally, provide the best service you can. That's how we should judge ourselves. And then try to make our work as sustainable as we can. Setting some boundaries with clients, particularly setting them up front. And those boundaries will work with other lawyers and even colleagues in our office because they'll be trained not to interrupt us. And then planning our day, being purposeful and intentional, being proactive instead of reactive. So often we're reactive. We're responding to everything that happens around us. Someone says, "Can I interrupt you to ask you a quick question?" And I say, "Sure." The quick question takes 15 minutes. It takes me another 10 to get back to where I am.
Exactly. Yeah.
My brother and I often speak, and always been said, "Do you have a minute?" I sort of laugh because it's never a minute, but he's my brother, and that's great. But I know that it's always 30 minutes, but we give those quick interruptions so often, and they just interrupt with the flow of our work. And the other thing that I think is important is to align our practice with our values. So often we're frustrated at work, we're not happy, we don't know why. And I encourage my clients, we spend some time looking at what their values are. What is important to you? Is making the most money you can important? Is prestige important? Is independence, autonomy, flexibility? What's important to you? And then we try to create a practice that satisfies those values most importantly. For me, having some independence and autonomy was really important. So even though I clerked in federal court, I graduated #1 in my law school class, I didn't go into big law. I didn't want someone to tell me who I had to represent and how I had to do it. And in a small firm, I had so much flexibility. I tried jury trials my very first year there. And I could choose to take on these different cases that no one else might want to handle. And I really enjoyed that. So I find that when we take time and see what's important to us in our practice, we can build a practice that's consistent with those values.
You said so many great things there that I want to segue here to our closing checklist. So we always end every episode with some actionable items for people. And in this case, we have the 5 steps to break free from the golden handcuffs. You've already mentioned a lot of it here in the podcast. We just want to really reduce it down to the 5 essentials here. So if you haven't been listening, now's the time to really perk up and listen. Here's the takeaways from this episode. Gary's 5 practical steps for attorneys ready to break free. So Gary, I'll start reading them off and then you just jump in and add on when you're ready. Okay, so I'll start here. Number 1, shift from external to internal validation.
We talked about that a lot. And you'll find that when you stop worrying about what other people think of you, what the judge thinks, what the client thinks, and you just focus on being a good lawyer, being a good person, your clients will be happier and your practice will be more successful. But most importantly, it'll be less stressful.
Number 2, reframe perfectionism into preparation and clarity.
That's important. You know, instead of worrying about when I'm going to win the case or lose the case or how perfect things are, just prepare my work. Just get in and do it and do the effort and make it as good as it can be. And then be clear with everyone around me what my intentions are, what my purposes are, and how I'm trying to serve my clients.
Number 3, set boundaries around responsiveness. And I love this one because I think everybody could learn from that one.
I gave a presentation recently to the North Carolina Association of Women Lawyers, and I asked them this question. I said, how many times do you look at your email in a day? And they all started laughing. I said, more than 5, more than 10. We were up to 40 or 50. They look at them 4 or 5 times an hour. And it's distracting addiction that is really unnecessary because nothing important happens in email. I mean, you need to look at it, but it's not urgent. It'll be there in a couple of hours. And so I encourage them all to set those communication windows. I have one client who's a major partner in a litigation firm, and I told him this, and he laughed. He said, I could never do that. And 2 weeks later, I checked with him. I said, how's it going? He said, it's great. I look at my email now 3 times a day, and I answer them all, and I'm good. And I'm not interested in it the other time. It's not time to look at email. And it really, really works.
I mean, like you said, your methodology, the free lawyer, right? This absolutely is so freeing and helps reduce the stress that you're not on top of it. You're not constantly looking at all these messages bombarding you. So that's why that one really speaks to me. Number 4, build daily practices for resilience and focus.
Yeah, so doing the check-ins a couple of times a day, planning your day, your tomorrow, the night before, starting your day with intention. Who can I be of service today? Who am I grateful for today? How can I help my clients best today? What are my goals for today? What do I want to try to get done today? During the day when you feel stressed, say, you know, what's that about? Why am I stressed? And maybe it's because we're not in the right place. Maybe we're worrying about the future, worrying about what if the case goes backwards, worrying if there's something wrong with our pleading. No, be present, do our work, and get back on task. And then having good practices at night. Finding some time to get some exercise is a great stress reliever. It could be anything you enjoy, whether it's golf or running or pickleball or going to the gym, eating decent food during the day, and doing some of those practices we talked about to have a good night's sleep.
Number 5, align your legal career with your deeper purpose and value.
Right. We talked a little bit about that, aligning with your values. And, you know, sometimes people are working in a practice area that doesn't enthuse them. They're doing a kind of work that they can't relate to it. There's a legal need for it, but it's not why they became a lawyer. And sometimes we can be more fulfilled doing something that might pay a little less, but really is servicing a community that's important to us. I did insurance defense work for the first 30 years of my career, and then I completely transformed myself into being a family lawyer. And a lot of people don't like that because of the stress and the emotions involved. But I found I could be of such service to my clients because I saw them when they're full of fear, maybe anger and worry and confusion. And I could help them paint a picture of what their future could look like. And I could help bridge them from here to there. And it was so fulfilling. And nothing gave me greater sense of satisfaction and success and fulfillment than when they write me a handwritten thank you note. You know, thank you for what you did. I liked that they paid the bill, but I really liked when they sent me that thank you note.
Makes it all worth it there at the end. Well, Gary, thank you so much. I could talk to you for hours, but I know the listeners are busy. We're busy. So we're going to move on here and close it down. But before we do, I'm wondering, because like I said, I could talk to you for hours. I'm sure a lot of the listeners would love to reach out to you and learn more. So where's a good place for them to connect with you, maybe learn more about the free lawyer methodology?
I'm very active on LinkedIn by my name, Gary Miles. I look at my messages every day. If you're listening and you'd like to learn more, just connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me a connection request. I'd be happy to connect with you, and I have a lot of my materials there. My website is easy to find, GaryMiles.net. My podcast, The Free Lawyer, all the episodes are there. I write a weekly blog for LinkedIn. All those blogs are there as well, and a lot of resources. And I'd love to chat with you. If any of you want to learn how to become a free lawyer and how the framework could work in your life, I'd be happy to chat with you.
Amazing, Gary. And to the listeners, I can't recommend Gary enough. Here on the podcast, you only got a little peek into what makes Gary Gary, and I really encourage everyone to reach out to him and have a conversation. It's literally life-changing.
Eric, thank you so much for having me. I love the service that you provide. I enjoy this podcast, and as you know, you work with some of my clients, and they're thrilled with your service as well.
I appreciate that, Gary. That means so much to me. And if there's other listeners out there that are ready to step up and take the guessing out of their law firm growth and their marketing, set up a free discovery call with me for our Motion for Marketing system. The link's going to be in the show notes, or you can go to my website, digitalneighbor.com. Gary, thank you so much for being here. For our listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, share it with your colleagues, leave us a review. It helps more firms learn the strategies that actually work. Until next time, practice freely, pour yourself something to drink, stay hydrated, keep building a career you love, and cheers.